Hi everyone, I'm Frank Daniels, and you're watching Football DataLab. We work with a database of over 30,000 active professional players across more than 80 performance metrics. Today, we're looking at why left-footed players cluster in certain countries and whether that actually gives teams a real advantage. Let's start with the baseline picture. Our sample covers almost 16,500 players from professional leagues around the world. Of those, just over 11,600 are right-footed, around 750 are two-footed, and nearly 4,000 are left-footed. That's roughly 1 in every 4 players. On the surface, that sounds like a stable, consistent number, but it hides something far more uneven underneath. In certain leagues and national teams, the share of left-footed players sits well above average. In others, it drops significantly below. This isn't random noise. It's a pattern, and it needs explaining. So what's driving it? Geography, academy structures, positional demands? We'll break it down piece by piece in the scene.
So we've established that left-footed players are the minority, but the distribution is far from even. Let's look at the geography. From nearly 6,500 professional players in the sample, Brazil and Spain lead the way, around 28% left-footed in each country. Portugal sits right alongside them. That's not a coincidence. One explanation is the culture of technical development. In these countries, young players are taught from an early age to work with both feet, meaning left-footed players are less likely to get filtered out early. Another factor is the emphasis on positional football. Systems like Spanish tiki-taka create genuine demand for left-footed players in specific zones, and that shapes who academies recruit in the first place. England and the Netherlands sit at the lower end of the top 8, just above 25%. The gap is modest, but it's consistent. So this isn't purely about genetics. The environment shapes.
Countries explain where left-footed players are born. They don't explain where those players end up on the pitch. Look at this chart. Almost 85% of left backs are left-footed. Among wide defenders on the left side, it's close to 73. That's not coincidence, and it's not a manager's whim. One explanation is purely geometric. A left-footed player on the left flank crosses, cuts inside, and arrives into shooting positions without an extra body rotation. Those are seconds that decide moments at the highest level. The other explanation is scarcity. Left-footed players are a smaller share of any playing population, so clubs actively hunt them for wide roles specifically. Demand creates concentration. What's telling is that among center backs, left-footed players account for just 27%. In the middle of defense, your foot matters less than your reading of the game and your positioning. The market understands that and distributes the resource where asymmetry actually. We've established where left-footed players operate. Now let's look at how they actually behave with the ball. We're working with nearly 3,000 dribbles. The success rate for left-footed players sits at 50.5% against 49.9% for right-footed players. That's less than 1% between them. Statistically, it's almost nothing. One explanation is perceptual asymmetry. Defenders spend years preparing for right-footed players, so that's what their instincts are calibrated to. A left-footer arrives at an unfamiliar angle, and that unfamiliarity alone buys a tiny advantage. The other explanation is selection. Left-footed players don't drift into elite football by accident. Coaches recruit them deliberately for specific roles. That means the average left-footer in this dataset is probably a touch better than the average right-footer, simply because the bar to get in was higher. So the conclusion is this: there's no genuine technical superiority to the left foot. What exists is a contextual effect: scarcity, selection, and angle of approach. The advantage isn't in the foot itself, it's in the shortage of them. If this kind of analysis interests you, subscribe, and we'll be back in a few days with more breakdowns from the same dataset.